Live from the studio at the Northwest Florida School of Biblical Studies, this is Have a Bible Question, where you are part of the program. Now, let's go to the Bible for answers to your Bible questions.
But I had a great question come in that we've been answering that's, about how, why does God not allow some people to have children? Or why do some people why are they not able to have children? I think we've answered that. If you missed it, go back, watch it later. Go to YouTube, in a couple of days, it'll be just that segment if you want. But I think it segues into another question, and go ahead and submit your questions. We need these questions submitted here, guys. But how do we help people in those situations? Whether it's, because we actually brought several things, the problem of evil. We talked about death, when somebody's facing death, when somebody's facing mourning because they can't have a child, but they actually desire one, or even in cases, and since you brought it up with your situation, you have a special needs child, and there's a lot of parents that can be struggling with that. And as Christians, what I've noticed is oftentimes, whether we mean to or not, we can find ourselves putting our foots in our mouth and taste that.
I believe you mean feet.
Feet.
Yeah, feet.
Fetuses. No, foots. All right.
Back up. Just back up.
I say that for those that remember Mark Brewer. He tried to say the plural of feet or foot was fetuses.
Sheeps and stuff.
He was at school with me years ago. No. Yeah. All right, so we can put our feet in our mouths, and so fitting that I said it that way.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly why I called it out.
Well, it just took me a little bit to get that connection. But so, how can we as Christians help in these situations? And I'll kick it off with one. Sometimes it's not about what we say. It's the things that we do, whether it's just being there, chopping some food off, and we won't have to worry about saying the wrong thing sometimes if we just keep our mouth shut if we don't know what to say.
Yeah, in preaching school, when I was there, we had a class. In fact, we have one at Northwest as well about a minister and his work. And that was one of the things, talking about ministry. And this goes beyond preachers. This is everybody, every Christian, just going and being with somebody in their time of grief, in their time of difficulty, a surgery or whatever. You don't have to say anything. It's like, hey, brother, hey, sister, just wanted to come by and be here with you. And just sit there. Just the fact that you did that, what's the old phrase? Your actions speak a lot more than your words do.
Exactly.
People want to see you live. What's that phrase about? I would rather see a sermon lived than hear one.
Mm-hmm. Agree with you 100% on that. What else could be done? I already gave y'all one. You were just building off of that.
I'm good at that. Just build. I'm a builder, man. That's what I do.
Yeah.
You lay the foundation, I'll build.
All right, Bob.
I think digging in and helping people find a place where they can put whatever the tragedy is, whatever the obstacle is, to work in some way for God's glory. There are other people that are hurting. There are other people that have maybe you've experienced this. It was not remedied. God's answer was no, but it's been some time, and you've learned how to struggle through it. Well, it's time now for you to go and help others that are struggling through that. Who knows better how to do that than you? So I think that, again, so as to, again, not get locked into something, at least have other options ultimately. Not to rush that, but in time.
One of the things I would say whenever you talk to people, don't say that you know what they're going through. That's one of the key things that in my law enforcement, I was a part of a peer response group that was to combat, and Sharon, I saw your question. We're going to get to that in a moment. But we were trying to combat law enforcement suicide. And so as a part of this, it was a really awesome program in the state of Mississippi, is that if an officer was struggling with something, if it was an officer involved shooting, we had a network throughout the state of law enforcement officers, people that understand what it's like to be a cop. And we were you could not join this. You had to be asked to be a part of it. And basically I could be sent anywhere in the state to go talk to another police officer. And there was no consequences of the conversation. In fact, if their chief or supervisor tried to influence me to reveal it, there were actually criminal charges that the chief could face for that, because what we needed was a safe environment for a cop to sit there and be able to talk about what they're going through. And one of the things that I took away from that is never tell them that you know what they're going through, because you may have a similar situation, but you never have the identical situation.
Well, even if you do, I mean, every circumstance is different. Mm-hmm. Take whatever tragedy, one that I lean on is the loss of my mother. And I remember going that Sunday morning afterwards, and the one person in the entire room that I could relate to, and I could tell she related to me, was a young lady who had recently lost her father. And so, but yet the circumstances are different. Even she wouldn't say, "I know how you feel."
I had a friend that was going through something, and I call him a friend. He's a member of the church. He's involved in ministry works. Sometimes our works overlap, and so because of that, I've got to know him, and he's just an outstanding guy. And he was going through a situation, and it was very similar to the situation I went through. It's called none your business. And but I was able to call him up, and I intentionally made sure I called. And what I told him is, look, I can't say I know what you're going through.
That's important.
I can tell you I went through a similar situation, and I'd love to share with you some things that I faced if you want to hear.
And if you want to hear, that's great.
And he was like, well, yeah, that'd be great. And one of the things he told me was like, everybody calls up and says, well, this is what it is, and they don't understand. And so some of the things I said, it resonated with him from having been through a similar situation. And like I said, I'm just not going to go into it on here because it's nobody's business. But and there's a connection we had on that phone because of that. And I was grateful for that. So don't be afraid to use your situations. I mean,
but just don't try to make it equal.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And take away from theirs. Do you have something, Jeff?
Well, when they're actually going through that situation at that time, they feel like they're the only person that has experienced that. So when you approach it that way, it's almost like nullifying or taking away the thunder of what they're going through. In other words, like an attention thing, and the attention needs to be on them at the time. And that's the way people mourning feel. I was thinking about something we were talking about when I was in Georgia. I was minister there in Fitzgerald, and we had a baby that was stillborn, and I was asked to do a funeral for the child, and I just went to like 2 Samuel chapter 12 verses 21 through 23, and this is where David mourned and fasted while the child was still alive, and when the child died, he cleaned up and he ate and all that, and of course the emphasis is verse 23. But now he is dead, wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. And of course, I think that brings a lot of comfort, that the child is in a better place. And of course, we were talking, that may not be something they want to hear at the time because they're just thinking about how it's affecting them at that time.
Yeah, sometimes
that was something that.
Sometimes you need to let a wound breathe.
Right. Yeah.
I was going to say that. I think that as far as ministering to people that are experiencing bad things like this, is that you have to be ready, because this is this is really a question of why did God allow this to happen? Well, if you're ministering to this person, you're kind of that representative, and so you might as well be ready to be the punching bag.
Yes.
Ooh,
to receive the accusations but just take the brunt of it, because you're with people at their very worst moment.
Right.
So to correct their behavior or to give, to just lay out all the facts of the case and expect them to just, all of a sudden now I get this is, that's not.
That's right. Can I add another point on that though? That you're know what to talk about and what not to, because sometimes you could get into a theological argument over something that's just it's not the time or place right then.
Foot's in the mouth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You end up like, I wish that I would not have brought that up.
Well, when you were talking about that, it made me think of a situation that I experienced with you back years ago. I'm trying to remember the sister's name. She was 90-something years old, and she passed away. And she loved to fish. I remember that. She loved to fish. She lived in a little shotgun house up there just north of the church building there. And I remember going over there with you. It was me, you, and Greg.
Yep.
Went over. And you guys go in the back and are dealing with the family and everything. And her grandson was sitting out in the living room with me. And he was angry. And his question was, and this is the reason I bring this up is because sometimes you got to be careful with what you say, but at the same time you got to also teach. And he says, I just don't understand why God would let this happen. Why this? She loved God. She did everything for God. Why would he let this happen? How could this happen? What am I going to say? And so I looked at him and I said, if this world were perfect, if everything in this world were absolutely, no question, no pain, no anything, no problems at all, then your grandmother wouldn't have had the hope that she had to go to heaven. Mm-hmm. So I tried to use it as a teaching moment to just simply say, look,
plant those seeds.
Exactly, because he was not a Christian. And so
going to some comments real quick, Patricia Shaw puts on here, it's the small gestures that matter the most, letting them know that you care and there for them. She writes, the hardest loss as a child. And then Jody Ritchie put, sharing with a Christian friend is comforting.
Amen.
I certainly agree about sharing with a Christian friend. Kind of going back to sometimes just not opening your mouth, just being there. Going back to Job chapter 2, verse 13. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spake a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was very great.
But how much comfort did he take from that? Them just being there.
Yeah, I mean,
then they open their mouths.
And they mess it up.
Yeah.
One thing, Patricia Shaw, I would most likely agree with you. I hope to never find out that. I want you to know, I don't want to go through losing a child. But I would say avoid superlatives, and I think I'm getting that right. Y'all correct me. That's a big word there.
Superlative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
You were real close.
Yeah, you were real close.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll mess it up in a heartbeat.
In other words, you messed it up.
I thought you sounded great.
Y'all knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we heard what you meant.
Where we go to the hardest, the greatest, the most. I've learned to watch that, because sometimes when we say that, because what we need to realize, I get what you're saying, Patricia, 100%. Other than I don't ever want to experience it. But if you say something like that, and then there's somebody around that went through the death of a spouse, or they went through, and especially maybe they don't even have a child, so they can't even connect that. Sometimes that could, where we can just phrase things like, I can't even fathom the loss of a child, what somebody must be going through. Does that carry the power of saying the hardest thing without trying to put it above somebody else?
It carries the power without making it exclusive.
Because it's not that we mean to. And
Right.
I think that's what we learn as preachers, is how to use our words, even if we can't say superlatives, right? And
Good job.
but we're trying to use our words. And so we kind of learn in comforting and in counseling how to, I want to avoid this. And sometimes going and saying, because, I learned in debate, if you're going to put forth a statement, you're going to have to prove it. And if I say something like the greatest, all right, Tom Brady won a Super Bowl. If y'all didn't see that Sunday night, and he's known as the GOAT. You know what the GOAT is, right, Jeff?
Yes, the greatest of all time. But I think the Tampa Bay defense deserve a lot of praise for that too.
Yeah, they really helped. Kansas City Chiefs defense, I think, was playing for Tampa Bay. But anyway, so what I think is, we get into debating. All right, is that Peyton Manning or is that or is it some other quarterback? And what we find is we can't prove it. And like what she said is, I was speaking personally of myself, should have worded it better. No, I get what you're saying. I'm not chastising you. I want to bring out in here, when you're dealing with people, let's be very careful.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Let's be real. That's one of the most difficult things.
Oh, I mean,
we preachers have been, conditioned and taught and things like that, and we work on that. But your average person that goes to one of these viewings where you go up to the line and you go across talking to the family.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's hard.
Right.
That's so hard. And I think it's such good intentions. You want to give them a piece of your heart. You want to help them. And so what happens? We stick our, foots in our mouth, And so we just say things so the point being, we need to think about what we want to say beforehand, and just think about it before we get there and say, you know what, I just, my condolences, or I love you. You know what the best thing? I love you.
Ooh, that's what Becky Jones said. Just saying, I'm sorry you're going through this. I love you and I'm here.
Oh, there you go.
If we can just, I think the job that we're creating, or what we're doing here, is that we're just scaring people into not doing anything.
Yes.
I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, no.
Perfect. No.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Just go.
Yeah.
Just give them a hug.
Okay, give them a hug. There you go.
Yeah.
I love you.
Out of fear of saying the wrong thing, and I know what you guys mean. Having done this for a long time and having received some training, but I guarantee you, every scenario that I find myself in, I walk away going, "Should I have said that?"
Uh-huh.
Me
too.
Every sermon I preach, every funeral that I do, yeah.
Patricia Shaw says, when it's a child, I'd learn to say nothing. Just give support. And look, let me throw another one out. It has nothing to do with this topic, but I'm going to go throw it out there. If you don't know a woman's pregnant, shut your mouth. You know how many times that happens? Anyway.
How many times have you done that?
I have not.
Oh, me neither. Because I keep my mouth shut.
I have called somebody's sister-in-law her mother one time. That was awkward. So now I just, I don't try and make those family connections anymore. But, we do. We want to encourage because, Scripture, bear ye one another's burdens, so fulfill the law of Christ. Jody Ritchie put on here that was talking about, just sharing with another Christian. And don't think you have to be the one. I'm going to throw this out there. Don't think you have to be the one, especially preachers. If you're watching this, that was those collard greens. But if you're watching this, don't think because you're the preacher, you have to be the one to give the comfort. Sometimes you're not going to be the one. I had a good friend that was going through a situation, and I was there for him, but I was like, man, I don't know. I have no clue. I don't want to know. I said, but I got this guy. He's a preacher. He's in another state. I know you never met him, but I've talked to him, and if you want to call him, he said, here's his cell number. And then they connected, and I didn't need to be the guy because it's not about me.
Right.
I was glad to put him in touch with somebody else that could help him in a way that I never could.
No, nothing personal, but preachers, and I can talk about us because I are one.
Yep.
We're notorious for not appearing to be very genuine. And I think that we've probably all been to funerals where you can tell the guy doing the sermon up there has no clue who this person is, but they're pretending to be their best friends. I'm not necessarily in a situation. I might be better off just not saying anything. I might make the situation worse sometimes. Again, just I think thinking about the other person genuinely is what this is about. It's not about us and our pride or whatever. But
great point.
Right.
Final thing before we segue into the next break is we were talking about the whole how we started was dealing with someone that can't have a child, and there's a mourning in that takes place, and when all else fails, and you don't know what to say, just be truthful. And don't try and pretend like it's not there. Don't start, I can't say anything. If you don't know what else to do, like in that situation, because you realize people are celebrating about this birth and you realize here's this woman over here might be mourning, just go up there and be truthful and be like, look, I don't know what to say. I realize this might be bothering you. Is there anything I can do? Is there another way I can respond? Is there something I can do to help?
Yeah.
And, because we've all been there, and if it's awkward, okay, it's awkward. Let's get the awkwardness out. Let's go to the person and just talk to them.
Great point.
So
Yeah. And
go ahead, Jeff.
Proverbs 25:11, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in pitchers of silver.
Ooh, yes.
And of course, that's talking about being appropriate for the situation. Yeah.
Very fitly spoken,
Yeah.
Jeff.